For those who do not know me, I am Dr. Samwel Nyariki, registration number 637. I was in the pioneer class of the School of Pharmacy, 1974-78. I am first among 16 children born to my father and mother. One mother, 16 children. I come from a place where family planning was not a big issue early years. That is Kisii. That is between 1952 and 1982. I'm a husband to 2 wives. And a father to 9 children. A grandfather to 10 children. My first child was born in 1977 when I was still in the university. Actually, when I went to Bulgaria for the World University Games, I stopped over at Rome and bought a towel for the anticipated son or daughter. So at least I gave my wife a present bought out of the country as she was preparing to bring a young man to the world. My last child in the second family was born on 28th October 2022. So I'm that young. For those who do not know, I'm that young also. I attended primary school in Kisii, secondary school in Kisii, a school called Cardinal Otunga High School, and Form 5 and 6 at the famous Alliance Boys High School. Of course, I ended up at the University of Nairobi. I have worked as a teacher before university, sometime during university, during the breaks, and sometime after working as a pharmacist for quite some time, I did teach in a middle college for diploma in pharmacy for 3 years, and another one, 6 years, and another one, 6 years, which actually was Kisii University, as I was trying to slowly find where I will retire to. So I've retired several times from Nyabondo MTC and from Kisii University, and recently from Sphinx Pharmaceuticals. When I hit 70 years, they said, Mzee, you can now go and rest. I went to rest when my son, who was born in 2021, was still too young. The child who was born in 2022 is a bonus who followed that boy after my retirement or during my retirement. Countries I've traveled to: Italy, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, USA, Mexico, Sierra Leone, and Ghana. Those are the few countries I've traveled to. In the School of Pharmacy, I did a very noble duty of starting. As a pioneer pharmacy student, I also was the pioneer vice chairman of NUPSA, which we started with a team of very forward-looking young men and women. And when they proposed that I be the first chairman, I said, no, I cannot be the chairman in June 1978, and I'm leaving university the next 2 months. So Professor Isaac Kibwage was the first chairman, and I opted to be second chairman, and the vice chairman. As I transit, the next person will come in and take the position of vice chairman. So I'm not that selfish. I am like Gichuru, who welcomed Kenyatta in 1945 to take over Kau. And of course, later, he also welcomed him when he came from detention in 1958, 1961 to 1952 to run Kanu. Sorry, you understand the history. Of course, Kanu was our first party which brought government. I was the first vice president of PSK. Before we used to have chairman. I was the first vice president of PSK under Dr. Nyariki. 2010, 2014, I was in the council, and those who might have been with me knew that I was very passionate about us having at least a vehicle to move. So that vehicle that you call PSK van, I fought for it. I happened to have been the first deputy chief pharmacist in 1981. In 1981, Mr. Arthur Magugu noticed that there was a gap in the leadership of pharmacy in the Afya House. Dr. Madenge was alone, so he said he needs some young people to assist him. And I was picked from Murang'a Hospital, and Dr. Kioi was picked from Kenyatta, and we deputized to Dr. Madenge. By that time, he used to be one person alone as a chief pharmacist. The most interesting thing, while we were there, we moved that pharmacy cupboard, which was at Afya House in the office of the Deputy Director of Medical Services, and we said, doctors, please prescribe, and we pharmacists, we do what? We procure and dispense. So that pharmacy cupboard was moved by us, myself and Kioi, from Dr. Gikonyo's office to Dr. Madenge's office. Those of you who have been in Afya House know where that cupboard is, where we dispense our medicines from. As far as my wish for future of pharmacy is concerned, is that we operate borderless. Let us go beyond our borders, because Africa is big. Let us go beyond that. Even I had a friend around from Shelf Life who comes from Sierra Leone. The other day I went to visit a friend in Sierra Leone. He surprised me. He told me, I work in Kenya. And I said, that is my home. Then he told me we meet in the conference. Actually, we have met. He has just gone out shortly. I would have loved to introduce him. He's called Dr. Ajifa. He works with the Shelf Life. I would love our practice to transcend beyond our borders. Earlier in 2010, 2011, we had talked about mutual recognition agreement. You remember that, Doctor? We talked about that. Dr. Nyariki might remember. We wanted to practice across East Africa conveniently by having a mutual recognition agreement. I do hope it is being sustained. I want to talk about something called orders from above, because it seems to be my last or parting shot as far as our life is concerned. In 1968, a brother, Innocent Dikok, ordered that I, Samwel Nyariki, be admitted in Form 1, particularly Form 1C, number 105, or number 35, because there were 3 classes, ABC. And he insisted, because he had earlier selected me among the 140 selected. Unfortunately, the government told him, you cannot take 140 students, you don't have capacity. So brother reduced the numbers, and he reduced everybody among those ones who he wanted to reject, and he retained Samwel Nyariki. So I'm that lucky. I was number 140 on the list of first selection. I was number 105 in the list of second selection. In 1972, the late President Jomo Kenyatta was ordering his medicines in the pharmacies in the streets of Nairobi. And there is a particular pharmacy he used to buy his medicine from. And while he was there, he asked, how come I don't seem to be seeing Africans in these pharmacies? There are only Kenyans, yes, who are non-Africans. What is happening? He was informed that we have few pharmacists. So the order from above, from the Kenyatta, was start a school of pharmacy. Dr. Samwel Nyariki, I'm among the beneficiaries because in 1973, Professor Joseph Mungai came to Alliance Boys High School. He looked at the list. He saw how many of you have selected, have filled forms for career, to go and study pharmacy. 6 of us had put our names to go to study in England, and he told us to fill fresh forms and indicate to study medicine in bracket pharmacy, because Mzee had authorized them to start a school of pharmacy in 1974. So that's how I benefited from orders above. Orders above helped me also for my position to be retained or to be sustained for admission in the University of Nairobi, because after the initial selection of 28 students for School of Pharmacy first year, somebody in the admissions department went and arranged files, and he took the one for Nyariki and they kept aside and introduced somebody else who might have been his relative. And by orders of Dr. Josephat Karanja, who didn't know me because I came from a bush home somewhere, he said that let that guy be retained in his position. So I was retained in the School of Pharmacy. 1981, I told you Mr. Arthur Magugu ordered for me to be posted to be a deputy chief pharmacist at Afia House. In 1993, when I was working in Migori, I spent almost all my earnings in sustaining a choir called St. Joseph's Migori, and they went to record music. While I was at it, I spent 150,000 shillings. By that time, my business was collapsing. It was a very small retail pharmacy. And then I asked, now what can I do? I've lost my business and I've done God's work. I think the Almighty ordered that from above. He said, your business will not be closed. My pharmacy in Migori has not been closed. St. Joseph excelled, and one of the greatest days was when our music was played at the burial of the late Pope John Paul II. I was very proud, by the way, when I saw our music is what people were playing all over the world, to remember that person who was doing good work. I believe I've told you who I am. I have asked God to do accounts for me wherever I've made mistakes. And I still say, my friends, sisters and brothers, where I have offended you, forgive me. Now I've become an old man, I'm trying to say, kama nimecross your path, forgive me, and let us continue together as a team. Pharmacy will excel so long as pharmacists take up their role seriously and continue sustaining what is good. Of course, I'm waiting for one order from above. My wife is a farm tech. I've been seeing how non-farm techs, non-pharmacists are opening businesses all over around us, and they have almost closed us. Yesterday, you had the chairman of the board. He said, we try and do something like a Passover. I'm hoping that Passover might retain my wife to continue practicing pharmacy in a climate which is not ile ya kufukuzana na biashara hakuna, because there are too many people who are practicing pharmacy. In this country, more than 50% of places which are operating are illegal. They don't have a farm tech, they don't have a pharmacist. God bless you.